Radio Fly.
Welcome to The Process. In this episode, I talk with Anshul Kaushik, and he runs this website called historyhunter.in. Here is me and Anshul. Hi, Anshul.
Hi.
So you were out of town. Were you out collecting historical objects or what?
No, I was on a tour. We have a group and I travel every year.
Okay. Tell me about your background. Are you a student of history?
No, I'm not a student of history, but history is my passion. I'm a MTech from BITS Pilani.
Okay.
And after that, I have started collecting the things.
Okay. So what did you study?
I am a software engineer, you can say.
Okay.
And I got some things from my grandfather.
Right.
And I have also prepared for the civil service examinations.
What objects did you just mentioned some objects, right?
Yes.
So what were those?
The objects which I got from my grandfather was some antiquities, you can say. And he has forwarded these things to me. So when I was preparing for the civil service examination, I had studied history quite well. So from that time, I was fascinated by the history.
Right.
So I have started collecting the stuff. I already have some things from my grandfather. Then I went ahead and started collecting the stuff from the past.
So your grandfather still around?
No.
Okay. So was he a history buff?
Sort of.
Sort of.
I mean, not that much buff, but still he was able to get some things from his friends.
Like what?
Like some very rare things from the Harappan civilization.
What were those things?
There was a seal, and there was a idol.
Okay.
And some paper documents also, and a gun from the revolt of 1857, and a Harappan bull.
How did he get those?
Okay, so my grandfather got these things from a friend whose name was Victor, I think, and who was a good friend of Mortimer Wheeler.
Was a British guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a British guy. And who was actually a friend with the Mortimer Wheeler, who is the father of archaeology in India.
Right.
So he got a handwritten note with the stuff, 2-3 things. And it was actually, as per my grandfather, that particular things were handed over by the Mortimer Wheeler to the Victor. And I don't know Victor who is and what he was. And so then somehow my grandfather managed to get those things from Victor with the note, obviously, on which there is a autograph of the Mortimer Wheeler, which was addressed to Victor himself. So that's how I came across some things from my grandfather.
And that piqued your curiosity?
Yes, that obviously piqued my curiosity. And even when I study history during my civil services examination preparation, so I was also very keen on relooking the past. I was very keen on understanding the past, that how things are changed. So that's how I was always fascinated by history during my school times also. So there was one teacher in my school whose name was Vakil ma'am. So she used to tell stories about the India-Pakistan war during the 70s. So how she used to hide herself under their house. There was a bunker or things like that because her village was near the border.
Right.
So I was quite fascinated since the beginning that history is something which to look forward for.
Okay. So do you do this professionally or what?
Not professionally, you can say, because I have also worked in Honda Motors India for 7-8 years. And I was a system administrator, you can say, there. And I was handling the data center operations there. Then I'm not much of a software engineer, you can say, although I have done my master's in software engineering.
But your passion lies in history.
Passion is history. But if you talk about my skill set, then more of a networking guy or infrastructure guy in computing. So that's how. I've also written a book on computer and network security.
Okay.
So that's how. So history is completely I'm passionate about. No.
Okay.
It's published by Khanna Book Publishers. And one book is currently in the publishing phase that is related to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and blockchain technology.
Right. So what do you do for a job?
I'm a consultant. So I've started my own. Now I am consulting. I have consulted for a power company which is working for Power Grid of India. So I was working on their smart grid project also. So they are coming up with a smart grid city near Pondicherry. So on that I have consulted.
So what kind of consultancy are you providing for the power grid? Are you providing the on the software side?
It's related to the complete networking stuff. I mean, there will be smart meters and how smart meters will be communicating with each other in a particular area. That is the one part. The second is how there will be a software called SCADA, Supervisory Access Control Device. So how these things will actually communicate with each other, that thing I'm working on.
Got it. You were working in Honda.
Yes.
And were you collecting historical objects then also?
Yes, I was collecting, but it was not, I was not that much passionate about history because during that time I was busy in job.
Right.
But, and I was not having that kind of access, you can say.
No work-life balance.
Yeah. So kind of you can say because my office was quite far from my home. I used to drive from Pitampura to Greater Noida.
Wow.
So this is approximately 65 kilometers odd daily, one side.
Right.
So it's a very hectic for me.
How do you collect your objects? Do you buy them or do you go to auctions or?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I have a very huge network worldwide, and most of the pawn shops which are there in US, Europe and all. So I have contact with those people, and I have a network of the collectors also. So sometimes it happens that some things came across some collector in Europe and he is not keen in actually collecting that particular thing. So he offers to us. So in that way I get the things. So sometimes I have to buy, sometimes I have to barter or exchange. So, and sometimes I have to take part in auctions as well.
Okay. So if an object is in, let's say, UK and you have to bring it to India, what are the process? Do you have to go through customs?
It depends on the item which you are bringing.
Okay.
I mean, usually the thing is, as per my knowledge is, if you are bringing something into your country, which is your heritage or things like that, then you don't have to pay any customs. But if it is something which is just a collectible, which doesn't have any historic value, or which is not not important as far as Indian history is concerned, then obviously if you have a different taste, then you have to pay the customs.
Now, my knowledge of historical objects is limited to Pawn Stars on History Channel.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that the value of historical objects can be quite varied. I think the guy on that show would used to say that just because it's old, it's not valuable. So how does a object attain its value?
See, first of all, it's a demand and supply driven market.
Got
if you
it.
talk about the historical things.
Right.
So I was lucky enough that in India, there are not much collectors and there is not a evolved market. So in that way, I get things at a very good price if I buy them, or even if I barter them with some other people, then I get really good deals. So if suppose the main collection which I have includes the historic newspapers, for instance, if I talk about one of the things which I collect, then I'm the biggest collector in India for historic newspapers. So if you talk about the value, then newspaper is the cheapest thing which you can get. Currently you can get it for 5 rupees. So there are two things in this trade. One is the collectible value and another one is the actual value of the item or the monetary value. So I have then not calculated the monetary value of my items because I'm planning to open a museum soon. So, but if you talk about the collectible value, then the collectible value of my items is very huge because I have the newspaper of the first day of the independence, 15th August 1947. Yeah. I have the oldest newspaper in my collection, which is dated back to 1818. That is the Tipu Sultan news is there, that how the British Army is preceding. So in that way, the oldest newspaper or a magazine which I have dated back to 1765, which is a Black Hole of Calcutta. That is also an interesting event. It's a Black Hole of Calcutta.
What was that phenomenon?
It was like when Sirajuddaulah was there in Calcutta. So he captured the Britishers into a small confinement hole, which is called the Black Hole in the Fort William, Calcutta. Okay. So during that, most of the people died and one of them survived, and he went to the British. He escaped from there and he went to England, and from there he actually wrote a report of the complete incident. And for the first time, that report was published in a magazine, which was the Gentleman's Magazine. So I have the original copy of that Gentleman magazines, which is dated back to 1760s. So it was like that. So that was another incident.
So you have not put a value to your entire collection?
No, it's not possible to put a value to the entire collection because the market is still evolving in India. And if the most of the things are very rare, so they can't have a price tag because you can't get these things in malls or any showrooms. So if I will ask you for a newspaper from the day of the independence, you won't find them in any shops. So that's how they are very rare things which I have. So the newspaper is one of the things which I collect over 20 or 30 items which I am into collecting.
Okay. What is the most valuable object that you think, or the most precious to you?
See, my whole collection is precious to me because I have worked hard in acquiring these items, very hard, and each item has a specific story. So if you talk about, then I also have a piece of moon in my collection. That is a moon rock. So it also, every item is
the ones
unique.
That they brought down from the Apollo mission?
No, this is not the one. It is it also has a very interesting story that when the formation of moon happened, during that time a piece from the moon crater went into the space and it revolved there for millions of years. And when at the time of the Chanakya and Alexandra, it fell into the desert of Morocco. So it was a 11 kg piece which lied there for several thousands years. And after that, what happened, it was recovered by some treasure hunters in the desert of Morocco in 2007. So they sold it to a guy named Adam Hupe. He was a US meteorites collector. Yeah. And Adam Hupe got this and then get it certified from NASA. He sold it to the Museum of Ontario. He displayed in the Ontario Museum and they paid him heavily. And after that, he started selling that 11 kgs piece to the market, to the international market. So that's how I got this stone. And
so how did you find out about that object?
Well, from some people.
From online forums? Okay.
From some people who are in contact with me because we have a group.
Okay.
Online group.
So would you care to mention what you paid for that?
No.
Okay. No problem. So, I mean, did you hear about the museum in Brazil that was burned down recently?
Yes.
Like, if it's a sensitive subject to bring, but if something like that happens to you, what will be the one object that you will run into your house to save? Like, if you were to save just one.
It's a very difficult question, actually. I've never thought about it, but I think I will be saving a painting which was drawn by Brands. He was an artist, and it is drawn with a ink and pen, and it is dated 1861, and the painting is about the siege of Sirangipatnam, when the fall of Tipu Sultan. So that was the most precious thing, I think, that I will save.
Okay. And what is the most recent thing that you brought into your collection?
I bought the newspapers of the day when man landed on moon.
Okay.
So I've got a 3 set of these papers. One is when the
69, right?
Yeah. July 69. So one is the when they have landed. The other newspaper is when they walked on the moon, and the third when the complete mission came back, the Apollo mission. So the 3 newspapers.
I think newspapers would be the most abundant object for collectors, right? I mean, No.
These are the most scariest thing which you can get.
The newspapers.
Yes. The reason is the newspapers.
But weren't there millions and millions of copies of the newspaper that were published?
But who cares to save them?
Save it, right?
Who cares? And the quality of the newspaper is like that it can vanish very easily. I mean, it's the most prone to the
decay or discoloration.
Yeah, discoloration, or it's very easy that it gets away.
Right.
Newspaper thing.
Right.
Because the quality of the paper is very poor in the newspapers.
What newspaper is that?
Any newspaper.
No, the one that you've got.
I think these newspapers are the Evening Star.
Yes. Okay. Now, I just mentioned the fire that was. How did you find out about it, and what did you feel about it?
I found it on the internet, obviously.
Right.
And
must have been painful to read about it.
Yes.
I mean, I saw a video of a historian. She was, bawling her eyes out. I mean, she was like, we've lost millions of years of our existence.
Heritage.
Yeah. That must have been tough.
It was very painful because building up a museum is a very, very big task. And even if I talk about the India also, I have visited the Northeast. So I always visit museums whenever I visit a state. So I went to the Assam State Museum, and even there I was like the situation was really bad, you can say. Right. Because although they are not charging for the museum, I have just paid 5 rupees for a entry to the museum and then 10 rupees for using the camera. But still they have the legacy, the paintings, and the situation of the letters which they have. They have a very wide collection of the letters which was written by the Mahatma Gandhi to Hitler and to various leaders. And the condition or the way they were stored there and displayed was quite poor. Very poor. So they are not conserving kind of a heritage, you can say. The people's conscience is not there. If you talk about the Europe, then London has so many museums, right, and they are, extraordinary, and they know how to preserve the history and heritage.
But the problem is that the government is not giving enough money to the museums or the curators, right? The government has no interest in preserving history.
I don't want to comment on that, but
because that's what happened in Brazil, right? It was in disarray. There were electrical wires which were hanging out of the walls, and the curators and other historians were pleading to the government that please do something about it, and someone had even warned about a fire earlier that month. But the government there is so corrupt. They didn't give enough money to the museum and it burned down.
But sensitization is also an issue. People here are not that sensitive related to the monuments, heritage and history per se. Because for them, they are more interested in having it a price tag on the collectible. That is the way people look at this thing.
They think of it as an investment.
Yes, they think of it as an investment, and they are more interested in the price of an object rather than the collectible value of the object. So that is the case. So everybody asks me that, what is the price of this item and things like that. So people are more interested in the price tag which an item has rather than its heritage value. That the newspaper of 15th August 1947 has a heritage value attached to it. So that is the thing. Or the newspaper from the Tipu Sultan era where the complete description of the fighting is there with the Britishers that has a heritage value. So in that way.
So I got your point, but let's say if someone is starting into getting into the collectibles,
Yes.
If he's paying, I don't know what a newspaper of that ilk costs, but let's say he pays a huge sum of money. Is it an investment? Can he get that money back, or it depends on the market at that particular time?
See, it depends. First of all, as I told you, that it is a demand-driven market, and if suppose some collector wants that thing really bad, and he wants to complete his collection. For example, if we talk about the stamps and coins, everybody knows about these two domains. So if a stamp, the first stamp of the India, which is the Candid, it is the first stamp of India.
Sorry?
It's a name of a stamp.
Okay.
Candid.
Okay.
It's a name of the stamp.
Is it Dutch or what?
No, it's British.
Okay.
British stamp. So that particular stamp has a very huge collectible and market value. So if I talk about, then somebody from Europe got that stamp for 13 lakh INR, a single stamp. So in that way, stamps, people are more, you can say they are more aware of the market dealing with stamps and with the coins. So in that way, the coins and stamps can be easily bought and they can be easily sold. But in case of the items which I collect, they have got a very tremendous potential for a market, you can say, but Indian market is not evolved for that. And my items are also not for sale. So in that way, you can say, yes, if a newspaper, suppose a newspaper of Indian independence, somebody has posted, I was browsing through internet, someone has posted that newspaper for around $10,000. Someone has posted. So I don't know whether that got sold or not.
But if it gets sold, then your object is also worth that, right?
Yeah, if it gets sold.
Right.
Or if someone wants it badly. For example, if someone wants to add this particular thing, some rich guy who wants to buy it and wants to put it into his collection, then obviously he can pay whatever I want because he won't get these things in the market. So it's a demand and supply based market, you can say. And the other fact is the market has not evolved in India yet. So we are still at least 20 years behind the Europe, that how the collectibles are traded in the European and US markets. So there everything has a price. Even a very old tin boxes, they fetch a very huge prices. So in that way, so we are still in the evolving phase, but someone has to work towards the evolution of this market, the collectibles market in India, because most of the people trade here are used to trade in coins or in stamps. So nobody knows. And the second thing is they don't know where to get because these things are very, very hard to get, and there are many complications involved. So it's not a kind of an open market, you can say.
So how does the market get evolved? What is there? Does the market get organized at some point, or is it all organic?
First thing, the awareness should be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are aware, but as I told you that people are more aware of the intrinsic value, that a price tag of an object which is concerned. So that is secondary. For me, price tag is secondary, because if something you have something very good from the history, if you have some, for example, you have something which is of a real collectible value, then automatically it fetches the price tag. But in India, the buying and selling platform is not there for these kind of collectibles other than stamps and coins. I'm talking about the stuff which are actually there. And secondary, the market needs to be evolved. Like if the users or buyers and sellers are aware that, okay, I will be getting that thing, or this is the market value of this price. So probably they can come step forward and can pay for a price for an object. So that's how.
So are there platforms like online platforms abroad that the people exchange or buy stuff on?
There are many platforms. I mean, if you talk about the platform, then there are many auction houses which are into this trade, and they earn their bread and butter doing this.
Through the auctions.
Yes. So they have a complete set of they and their parents, their grandparents, they are involved. Like if you have heard of the two big auction houses, the Christie's.
Yeah.
So this is a very big auction house, and another one is the Sotheby's.
Yeah. So the Christie's is New York and Sotheby's is London, right?
Yeah. So both of them are prominent in this area. So if suppose if someone wants to sell, they charge 30-40% of the auction value, and then you can sell it.
Right. The objects that you collect, are you limiting yourself to a particular niche, or do you collect everything, anything?
No, not everything and not anything, because it's not possible to. First of all, it's not possible to buy each and everything or get each and everything.
No, I mean, are you saying like, oh, this object is very good, but it's not, it does not fit in my collection?
Yes. So what I do is I usually collect the items which are before independence strictly.
Okay.
Otherwise, the things which have a high collectible value of after independence. For example, I told you about the newspaper. These newspapers are not before independence, but they have kind of an collectible value that this is the first time man stepped on the moon. So that's how I collect those. But most of my items are before independence, and I have drawn a line that what items I would be collecting. So if you talk about the items which I am into, if you talk about the items which I collect, then I collect the newspapers, as I told you. I also collect the fossils.
Okay.
I also collect some idols I got from my grandfather, I told you. But the fossils, I have collected them. So if we will talk about the fossils later, that what kind of fossils I have. But I also collect the postcards. And probably I am the biggest collector of the handmade British India watercolored postcards, which depicts the Indian culture, Indian history, and Indian people, that how people lived during that time. So approximately I have 800 of those postcards in my collection.
So these postcards were issued by the British
yes.
For Britain?
No, these are for India.
No, they depict Indian life, but they were supposed to be
British India postcards.
But they were supposed to be sent to Britain, right? To show their countrymen how they are living here.
They were used for communication.
Okay.
I mean,
it was not something special at that time.
Yes, it was not something special, but they were special because obviously they were the watercolored handmade postcards. So they were an exotic postcards, you can say.
Right.
Because normal postcards, you just
numbered?
have a stamp. Huh?
They were numbered?
They were numbered. They were stamped. Sometimes they are stamped and franked also. Some of the postcards, and
so do they have messages behind them? Or?
Yes, some of them have messages, and they are very interesting messages.
Like what?
Like someone is greeting on a new year to someone dated back to 1905. And they are also franked that first this card went from here to Kashmir and then went to Pune, and then it was franked into London. So that's how. So I have a very special postcard also. It was franked by the J.B. Noel. He was a Everest climber and director of a movie on Mount Everest. So what he did was he went to the Nepal, and he trekked to the Everest base camp, and then he franked that card there, signed it with his autograph, and then he sent back the runner to Kathmandu, and then that card went to Calcutta, and then it is franked with the British Empire stamp, and then it went to the London. So I have that card also in my collection. I also collect autographs also.
Okay.
Of the prominent people. I mean, I have 5-6 autographs.
Do you have Gandhi?
Yes, I have Mahatma Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
And I have Jawaharlal Nehru. I have the newspaper also. I mean, I have the autograph. I have the newspapers of their deaths also.
Okay.
So my collection goes like this. So suppose if I talk about the Indira Gandhi, I have the autograph of the Indira Gandhi. I have the newspaper of the day she died.
Yeah.
I have the autograph of Rajiv Gandhi. Then I have the autograph of Rabindranath Tagore. So that is how. So some autographs I have, these 4 or 5 autographs I have in my collection. Then I have some very interesting Mughal time game also, which is called Ganjifa.
Okay. How do you spell it?
It's Ganjifa.
Okay.
And probably I am one of the
Ganjifa.
collectors. Ganjifa.
Okay.
It's a Mughal game. It's a Mughal game with a round cards, and it is a handmade game with a wooden box. So it is dated probably 1800 something. So this is also the game, and I'm lucky to have it, and one of the collectors of this, because some private collectors has this game with them. So I have just 2 cards short of the complete game. I have around 68 pieces, if I can remember correctly, this game. It was played by the Mughals.
The little community that you have of object collectors, it must be very tight-knit, right?
Yes.
Do you have any meetups in Delhi or?
In Delhi, we have some meetups in Delhi of the collectors from Delhi only. So I have some friends who collects coins, who collect stamps, who collect some documents, who collect newspapers. There is one collector in Orissa who collects the newspapers only. So not the historic newspaper, any newspapers. So he is going forward for a world record now, that he is having 3,500 newspapers in different languages. So he collects those newspapers from around the world.
So he collects one of each?
One of each.
Okay.
I mean, without date, without history, without anything, he just collects the newspapers. So like that. So I also collect letters also, historic letters I have. And my collection is very huge. I mean, I have more than...
What is your favorite letter that you have in your collection?
The favorite letter, I mean, letters are something which is very close to my heart, my letters. I have 3 letters from the Wajid Ali Shah family. And Wajid Ali Shah was the last king of India. And please don't confuse it with last emperor, because last emperor of India was Bahadur Shah Zafar, and last king in India was Wajid Ali Shah.
So he was from...
he was the Raja of Awadh.
Okay.
UP, complete UP he was.
Got it.
So he was imprisoned by the Britishers in the Fort Reach, Calcutta. So it was monsoon time, and her Begum, she wrote a letter to him that मेरी घर की दीवारों की छत में से पानी आ रहा है, and मेरे पास पैसों की भी ज़रूरत है, तो कुछ करो आप, अंग्रेज़ों को बोल के कराओ. तो
and the queen is complaining to the king about
yes, because they were house. Yes, okay. They were actually shifted. The queen was shifted in the ladies' quarters there, and the king was shifted into a different place. And all the communication.
So these guys are in jail at that particular...
Yes, they were imprisoned. Okay. Means they got stipend from the Britishers, that we will manage your territory. You just we will be paying you this much amount every month, and you enjoy your life.
So kind of house arrest.
Yes, house arrest. That was the arrangement which they have. So then the Raja sent her a letter. And the interesting part is most of the communication was translated by the Britishers, because they were skeptical that the controversy should not be there. So when they receive a letter from the Queen, if the Queen has written it in Persian or some other language, they used to translate it at the back in English, and then they send it forward. So what happened? The Queen asked someone to write a letter on her behalf in English. So she stamped it with her own seal, with her own signature, Begum Khush Mahal Sahiba, and then she sent it to the king. So king wrote it in Persian language कि मेरी मलिका, मतलब ये आप छोटी बात कर रहे हो, आपको कल ही पैसे भिजवा देंगे और जहाँ आप बोलोगी शिफ्ट करा देंगे. So he wrote a letter, and then the Britishers translated that letter on the back because it was written in Persian. And then he sent it back to the Queen. So this is the one chain of communication which I have in the letters.
So they were aware that the British were, it was being read by the British in between?
Probably. Okay. Probably. Because they were house arrest. So then what happened, this is a one line of communication which I have. Then they have a son. The son was Hizbur Ali. So his father stopped his stipend. So he wrote a 7-page letter to the Governor General of India.
Why did he stop the stipend?
Probably because he was not having money. He was spending on himself lavishly.
Okay.
So because during the last of his days, he was quite a spender. And he used to spend on his luxuries. So there is a very interesting book if you want to read. It's The Last King in India.
Okay.
And it has got his complete life.
The Last King in India, and it's available on Amazon?
Yes, it's available. It's a very interesting book.
Okay.
I mean, so then he sent a letter to get a stipend that to the Viceroy General of India, Governor General of India. And the letter was sent back and he was saying कि मेरे को पैसे नहीं दे रहे हैं मेरे पिताजी, एंड आपने लास्ट टाइम उस राजा के बेटे की हेल्प करी थी, उसके फादर ने भी नहीं दिए थे, तो डू समथिंग, आई विल बी योर सर्वेंट फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ माई लाइफ एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. 7 pages, and then he signed it and sealed it, and he said that Abdul Hizbur Ali, eldest son of the king of Oudh, Wajid Ali Shah. So he wrote it in English. So these letters I have. Then I have a letter from the war. I have a war letter, which is from just.
Anshul is checking something on his laptop.
Okay, it was an Anglo-Maratha war letter. It was written by a private to a colonel on 16th January 1818. So the letter, I have the complete transcript of the letter, and I have the actual letter. I have the actual letter with me. It's very interesting to see that how they were influenced by the things which were happening during those times, and the calligraphy in the letters is worth observing, that how they used to write. And this letter is actually the Pindari War.
Everyone had beautiful handwriting back then.
Yeah. Yes. Pindari War letter. Okay. So Pindaris were a clan. They were the first ones to get involved in the Anglo-Maratha War. So this is the letter, dispatch letter. And if you want, I can read that what's the letter is about. So the letter states that, my dear Colonel, I have had no thinkers of our movements to give you, and can only tell you that we have come here with the hope of getting something to guide us in chase of the Pindaris. Upon account of Kurim was the name of a leader from the Pindari War, of Kurim crossing at the Ora Ghat, being received by the general at Rampura, he recalled a party who were bringing down 10 brass guns at Rampura. He recalled a party who were bringing down 10 brass guns from around on the hills above Rampura, burst and destroyed them and their carriages to Sanjeet, with intent to let 4 squadrons of cavalry slip after Kurim. The detachment had marched when a letter from Sir John Malcolm brought news that they had run into Colonel Adams' teeth, who had cut them up. So it's like that.
Sounds like a briefing that he's reporting.
Yes, it's a
superior.
briefing.
Okay.
It's a dispatch letter briefing.
I mean, it's very interesting that back in the day they used to write letters in the middle of the war.
Yeah.
I mean, if I think they would be taking orders from the superiors that were closest to them, but they had to do the briefings via letters.
Yeah, communication was not there back then. Only the mode of communication was writing down letters.
Yeah. Right. So you mentioned the letters. So like I mentioned, I watch History Channel quite often, and it has gotten to shit recently, by the way. So the word that I learned is provenance. Mm-hmm. And so how do you prove the provenance of the letters that you have?
That is an interesting question. See, the items which I have is being collected by the different collectors. So I can prove the genuinity of my item rather than provenance. Provenance is something that if I will sell to someone, then he can show the provenance that he has got it from me. Okay. But I can show that I have got it from the other collector, but he will not able to prove that from where he has got it. So the thing is, most of the items, that is another interesting thing which I...
so the optimum situation would be the chain of ownership, right?
Yes.
So I got this from him and he got from her and so on, and dating back to the original.
Yeah, but if only the records are available.
Right.
So in Indian context, what I'm trying to say is the characterization of this collectibles which I have is like I can prove the genuinity of the items, and I only collect those items which I can prove that they are genuine. For example, if I will say that, for example, let's say an example of the letter which I have. The letter has got a watermark. Okay. The second thing is the rate of acidification of a document can prove that how old is it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is another thing, but you have to check about that. The third, the genuinity is all the things which I collect, they are dated. And if let's talk about this letter. I told you about the book, The Last King in India. The letters which I'm talking about, they are mentioned by the author in that book. I can tell you the page number of the letters. Okay, I can tell you the page number, exact page numbers, the where the author has mentioned. Like on page 148, it is mentioned that Kosmail Sahiba sent a letter to the king about her woes. So that letter is in my possession. On page 148, when the king answered the queen, there is a mention of this letter on page number 148 as well. That is there. And the letter which I talked about, the Prince Hizbur Ali, it is mentioned from page number 224 to 228. So in that way, I can prove whatever items I have, that how they are genuine. And interestingly, I am also certified by the government of India for restoration and preservation of the items. So the things which I have, I preserve them. And there is a very specific way of preserving these items and other items, because paper, you have to take out a different procedure to preserve them. For another item, if it's a idol, you have to take the other methods to preserve that item. So in that way, I am also a certified preservator in that sense. So if we talk about, then there was a exhibition which was there in the World Museum Day in the National Museum and Delhi.
Yeah.
And there was one slave certificate.
Okay.
Which was borrowed from the British Museum by the National Museum. And I have the same slave certificate, just dated just ahead 2 days. I mean, that certificate was dated, which was displayed in the National Museum.
Which slaves were these?
The slavery, when the slavery was happened. So that was the last set. When I have
Blacks in America.
Yes, America. So I have a letter dated 18th March 1871, the certificate, where it is shown that the name of the person is this, the age is this, and for the rest of his life, he will remain his property. It is clearly mentioned in that certificate. And the British Museum has a same certificate dated 20th March 1871. So exactly everything is same. The stamp is same. The content is same. The page is same. The watermark is same. So I cannot prove the provenance, that where I got it or from where, but I can prove the genuinity. You can check the London Museum and can see and can have a look at it in the light. You will get a watermark. You will have the same signature, same stamp. Everything will be same, and the letter is from the same lot. So in that way, I can prove the genuinity of the most of the items which I have in my collection.
So how difficult is it to fake something like that? To make a fake and dump like 100 of them in the market?
It's very difficult because if you are a good collector, you have an eye about this thing, and you will very easily falls out that it is a falsified thing.
So what mistakes do these fakers make?
See, seriously, I haven't seen any faker yet, because first of all, faker will not get an item. He can get a front page of a newspaper, max to max. If you talk about, I'm talking about the full editions. If you want to fake a complete newspaper, then
but what if someone wants to fake a letter?
Someone wants to fake a letter. It is also very.
there are videos on YouTube to how to make paper look aged, right?
Yes, by burning it or by dipping in chemical or something like that. Letters, I can't say, because I don't collect that kind of letters, because if the price of a letter, faking a letter is greater than the actual letter, then nobody will actually fake it. Try to understand. So, for example, if I will
letters don't go for that much. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. The letters written by Mahatma Gandhi, written by Albert Einstein, they are more prone or susceptible for a fake. You can get a fake in them because they have a very huge market value.
Right.
But the letters which I'm talking about, you cannot fake these letters because the process of faking these letters, even the technology is not available in India per se. So the cost of faking these letters is obviously higher than the actual letters in my case. So that is what I'm saying. And if we talk about the newspapers, then you cannot fake a complete edition of a newspaper.
Right.
First of all, from where you will get a complete copy, then the printing, the offset, everything has to be original. So it will not make sense for anyone to replicate a newspaper.
You mentioned some fossils as well that you have in your collection.
Yes, I have some fossils in my collection. I have a dinosaur egg fossils, and probably I have a jawbone of a dinosaur with a tooth intact.
Why did you say probably?
Because still I am in process of authenticating that particular stuff. That's why I said probably.
So how will you go about authenticating it?
See, I will. There is a laboratory in Lucknow, which deals with this kind of stuff, paleontology and other stuff. So I will be contacting them for this.
Okay. And yeah, you were mentioning more fossils.
Yeah, I also have a fossil dated back when Himalayas were not there and it was a sea.
Right.
So if you know that it was a Tethys.
The two plates collided.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I actually hunted that fossil in Spiti Valley. So what happened when the two plates converged, then the Himalayas were formed. So the organisms which were there in the sea,
right,
they went to the heights.
Right.
So I have a fossil dated back millions of years old.
A marine animal.
A marine animal.
Right. On the mountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got it from Spiti Valley.
Okay.
And I also have a bird dated back to Jurassic Age. I have a bird fossil and a fish fossil also. So
where do you keep all this? I mean, all this must take a lot of room.
Not that much because, but I'm keeping it in safe.
Okay. So how many safes do you have?
No, it's not that large things.
Okay.
So the best part is that is the reason I haven't started it displaying. Although I had an exhibition at India International Center with which was in collaboration with an NGO, in which I have only shown the things which are related to the partition of India.
Okay.
So that was an NGO, Partition India, and I have displayed some items from that era, from the partition time, because displaying is a big issue. Unless and until these newspapers, these documents, they are stacked together, preserved well, then I don't need a space. But the moment I will start displaying them, I have to make a complete arrangement for their display. Then obviously they will take space. And I also have prehistoric tools from the Stone Age.
Okay.
Some very small tools that were used by primitive man for cutting, grinding and all other stuff.
The stone tools.
Yes. And I also have hairs from the woolly mammoth.
Okay.
And that also I am in process of authenticating them. But I got it from a researcher who is working in Siberia on the woolly mammoths.
On resurrecting them or?
Sorry?
On resurrecting the woolly mammoths?
Not resurrecting them, but he's doing some kind of research.
There were some news stories about, they were trying to.
Yeah, in Korea they have set up a laboratory.
Right. So what if they do manage to do that? Will your collectible be worthless then? What?
No.
What if there were two mammoths walking around, 5 years from now?
My collectibles will never be worthless. Okay. Because the mammoth hair which I have is dated back to millions of years ago.
Right. So you got the original. They'll be making a copy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned opening a museum.
Yeah.
Is that your big life goal?
Yeah, kind of. I have a big life goal of opening a private museum.
Have any other museums approached you for buying your collection or something? Or have you ever thought of donating to a museum?
For donation, yes, some museum has asked, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But for what was your second question? Sorry.
Have you ever thought of selling it to a museum?
No, I haven't thought it. Because this is a legacy which I want to carry.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't be selling even a single item in this. Although I have got offers sometime for a single object, for example, for a newspaper or something. But I'm in no mood and I will never sell my collection. Because even if I have 2 copies of a single item, then most probably I will be selling the 1 copy.
Right.
But I will not be selling my collection.
Wouldn't it require a lot of capital to set up a physical museum and,
That is why I am working with the government bodies to get some funding so that I can show the heritage of India to the world. So that is my agenda and goal. So, but let's see how things will go.
Want to say that there are already so many museums. Why don't you give your collection to one of those?
No, because the kind of items which I have, you won't see in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just told you about the newspapers and autographs and postcards,
right?
Fossils, and I have a complete set of stamp papers from the princely states. Then I have a very huge collection. I have a very big map of British India printed in 1818, India map of British India, and things like that. I have a collection of advertisements where there is written "Bag a tiger in India" in $300 with a 30-day bag a tiger. Okay. They are very interesting advertisements of the tourism industry during
hunting was very popular back then.
Yes. Yeah. So bag a tiger and things like that. So I have a very interesting collection which you won't see in any regular museum. For example, the day when Bal Gangadhar Tilak was sentenced, I have a newspaper of that day. Then I have a special section for Delhi also. If you talk about Delhi.
Okay.
I mean, Delhi is my state, so I have to have something.
Delhi has a huge history.
Delhi itself has a huge history. It is the oldest city.
Yeah.
So I have a coronation section of Delhi. I have the day, newspaper of the day when New Delhi was inaugurated.
Yeah.
I have the day.
1911, right?
No, 1911. It was actually shifted from
Calcutta to Delhi. Right.
For that day, I also have a newspaper.
Okay.
I have the original photographs of that day, but I'm talking about the New Delhi. So when the New Delhi was inaugurated, I have the newspaper of that day. And when Bhagat Singh bombed the Delhi assembly, I have the newspaper of that day. So in that way, I have a very huge collection of the newspapers also. And I have a tin plate, a souvenir, which was awarded as a token of gift to the attendees of the coronation ceremony which was happened. So I have a tin
mementos.
Plate. Yes, memento, kind of a memento. I have a medal that was awarded on that day. That was 13th December 1911. It's 1911 when the coronation happened. 11th December.
So on your website, are these all these objects listed on your website? History Hunter. It's historyhunter.in, right?
No, and the date is 12th December. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. No, objects are not listed there. My objects are not listed. That's what I have. I have a presentation which I usually give if someone asks. I had a presentation in National Museum on the World Museum Day. And the title of my presentation is Traveling Through Times, where I actually take you to a journey from the formation of the moon or earth till independence. And it has around 130 slides, and it covers most of the items which I have in my collection. And other than this, I have 2 more themes of my presentations. So if you talk about the stamps, then I have my grandfather was into collecting stamps. So I have completed his stamps collection. So I have around 140 years of stamp collection. catalogued year by year. Like it is dated from 1860 till 1980s. So in that way. So this is another set of presentation which I take, where I will take you to the journey of the stamps, that how stamps and as a philately as a branch has evolved. And then I have a third theme in my collection which is related to the life of the Indians during the British Empire, where I take you to the journey with the help of my 800 postcards. And the monuments are there, and the buildings, the people. So in that way. So there are other themes of my presentations which I usually take.
Instead of a physical museum, have you thought of opening an online museum? Like, did you see I think in Sweden or some Scandinavian country, they emptied a riverbed. Did you read about that?
No.
They emptied a riverbed. I think they were making a subway, a metro, and they redirected the route of the river. Mm-hmm. And the riverbed was empty, and there were like millions of objects, and not millions, I mean thousands of objects that were found. People have been dumping stuff into the river for ages.
Okay.
And they catalogued each and every object on their website, and it was a great project. It started with the 2000s.
Okay.
So you could scroll down to history. So on the first page, they were like from 2000 to 2010. And they were mobile phones and, all these objects that were from that era. Mm-hmm. And then they were 90s and 80s, and it stretched back to, I think, 1700s.
Oh.
And there were coins and utensils from the 1700s, from the Viking era.
That's wonderful.
So I that's what I wanted to ask. Wouldn't a project like that be, quicker to launch, cataloging all your objects and then showcasing on a particular website?
My objects are actually catalogued.
Okay.
Although it's a very huge task for me, but somehow I was able to invest that much time in cataloging the things. And that is an interesting idea of opening an online museum. But the feel which you can get in viewing a particular object or flip through the pages of the newspapers physically, that kind of feeling you will not get in an online museum. Because what I want is that if I will display a newspaper on a table, first of all, my first requirement is I will be setting up in that way that users will be able to flip the newspaper. It is not like that I will be keeping it in a showcase inside.
But that can be done virtually also, right?
That can be done, but the explanations can also be done, but the feeling which you can have a physical object in hand cannot match things which you can actually see it on a computer screen. So my main goal is that if suppose I will open a museum, then the museum will be having separate sections, and I will take it through the journey physically and with the proper display and the proper stories that what is behind the object. Because every object, I have a story of acquiring the object, and I have a story behind the object that is about the object. So I want it in a very seeming way that it will be a journey, physical journey, when you step into the museum. And then you will have the earphones on your head, and it will be a kind of a virtual reality thing with a physical connection, you can say. Because I am a kind of an old school guy, and because I'm associated with history, so probably I want it to be displayed physically rather than having it on the website.
Okay, I just found the article, so I'll mention it. It was actually Amsterdam. A newly launched massive database presents a fraction of the 700,000 objects uncovered in Amsterdam's Amstel River, the main artery of the city. So between 2003 and 2013, they changed the route of the river, and 700,000 objects are found. The website is Below the Surface, and the URL is belowthesurface.amsterdam.
Okay.
That's the URL. So you can check it out.
Yeah, I will definitely.
And it was very unique. I spent like an hour on the website itself. It was so much
Wow.
fun, going back and
Yes.
seeing objects.
Yes.
So I mean, this is just an idea that you can explore. You can have a dream of opening a physical museum, but it will take a lot of capital and a lot of time. So this thing, I think, something like this can be done very quickly, like in a matter of months.
Yeah, when I was giving a lecture in the National Museum, then a few guys from a company approached me. They have the technology of 3D scanning and stuff like that.
Right.
So they have proposed me that if I want to go ahead with this, I can, approach them. So probably I will actually talk with them.
Yeah.
And then let's explore that how it can be done. But physical thing is
Yeah, I got your point.
what I am into. I mean,
Right.
I want it to be displayed. So physically, that is my main goal. And I also want it, if I will not get a proper funding from the government, then I can actually got funding. I will try to get funding from some private investors who can fund in opening a museum, because see, I have a contact.
Are museums a profitable thing? Are museums a profitable project?
Uh,
I mean, an investor would seek a return on his investment, right? So
Right.
he would say, I'll give you X, you give me like 2X in 10 years.
right.
So,
But he is investing in history. So if
but he
will
must be passionate about history, as much passionate as you are.
Yes. So
Right.
he will be investing in history, because I have contacts for getting stuff from outside.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we will get the funding, then we can probably get some things from outside, and then we can display it. And see, museum is ever evolving. Profitability is the thing. You can get a profitability in the museum if you are talking about a private museum.
Right.
ठीक है? So it's like, if I will suppose start up a very huge, in today's world, people want to see a museum. They want the services in that way, and they are ready to pay. I mean, if you will be asked to pay 500 rupees a ticket for a museum, I think you will definitely, if you have that kind of things in your museum, then you can attract the crowd. And it's an ever evolving process. It's not like that okay, I went to some museum once, I have seen everything, and okay, now why should I will go again? If I will develop an evolving museum, say today I have 1,000 things in my collection, if I will get a funding, I can have 500 more next year. Then in that way, it is an ever evolving business. And if you can portray, if you talk about the Tussauds Museum, see, they charge 1,600.
It's not really a museum.
So whatever it is, but people are paying 1,600 bucks to get
Right.
inside. This is the thing.
To get their pictures clicked with Shah Rukh Khan.
Yes. So if people are paying 1,600, they will definitely pay 500 rupees a ticket for visiting my museum, if I can give them a product.
What is your favorite museum in India?
My favorite museum. It's
yours?
no. It will be mine once
Yeah.
it will start operating. But I think the exhibitions in the National Museum, they are very good. I mean, when they...
The temporary exhibitions.
The
like
temporary
they showcase
exhibitions.
the jewels of Nizam.
Yes.
Right.
So in that way, they are exceptional, because they get funding from the different NGOs also, like Tata Foundation and Aga Khan Foundation. There are some Infosys Foundation. So they get these exhibitions are being held in a comprehensive way and in collaboration with each other. So that way, because the exhibition which I was talking about, it was related to the 7 civilizations, and they got several items from the British Museum and they have displayed it there. And they have also lended it from various museums in India also, depends on the theme. So in that way, those exhibitions are very worth. And last month, I think they have a hookah exhibition there. So they bought hookahs from all over the world and they have displayed it there. So these exhibitions are very interesting.
No, but in terms of a permanent collection.
Permanent collection, obviously the National Museum has the
Right.
greatest collection
Biggest,
in India.
right.
They have the greatest collection.
Yeah. the one in UK has like the richest collection in the world. Like National
UK.
Museum.
London has so many museums, and most of the museums
because
are
they had so many colonies under them.
That is the reason. Most of the art, they are in the British Museum, Victoria Museum, and in those museums.
What if someone wants to get into collecting? Like, what is the first step that he should take?
See, first of all, I think one should actually explore their interest, that what items they enjoy or what they are passionate about. Because some collectors in my circle, they collect the matchbox labels.
Okay.
So they are passionate about these. So these items is also their history. I mean, collecting a matchbox from a British era is a very interesting thing if you have them. Even I also have some of them in my collection. But so when I started with the collecting, I have started collecting the labels and all other stuff. So I explored that what kind of things I am passionate about, and I will start collecting it. So it depends. First, you have to explore that what you are passionate about. Then I thought what I'm collecting. I've also started collecting coins also, because stamps was there. I was collecting stamps and completing my grandfather's collection. But on the other side, I started collecting coins. Somehow I didn't feel like something exclusive in coin collection, because the thing is they are widely available. I mean, and this is the most common thing which anyone can start.
You could buy them on eBay, I think.
Yes, you can buy them on eBay also, and there are so many markets. You can also get them in the Old Delhi. So in that way, I started collecting coins. But first of all, I didn't had that kind of knowledge and patience to get into the stuff. Like there are hundreds and thousands of coins, era-wise and things like that. So I thought that it should be simple. If I am collecting something, it should tell a story in itself. I mean, I can relate it to the history. So I thought that is not my ball game. So I stopped collecting coins. Even coin collection is a very intense hobby for some people. They invest lakhs of rupees in this, coins and banknotes, and their value is tremendous in the market. But I didn't feel like collecting coins because I was not passionate about coins. So I have a theme in my mind that I will collect 50 or 100 coins, but I have a proper theme in the back of the mind that how I will be going to collect and how I will be going to present. Because collecting is a different thing and explaining your collection is a different thing altogether. Because if I will give you a stack of 100 newspapers, please read them. It will be like you will say, you are a kabadi. What are you giving it to me? But if I will tell you a story that, see, this newspaper has mention of Baji Rao when he was attacked by the Britishers on that date, and it has this kind of news, then obviously a newspaper is telling its story. And it is more interesting when you can able to relate it with the history. So in that way. So first, collectors, if you want to start collecting, you should be passionate about the thing. Explore the thing. Start collecting it. I mean, if you are passionate about collecting a matchbox label, start it. Collect them 40, 50, 100 or whatever you can. And then look back at it that, okay, are you feeling a satisfaction in collecting this item? If you are getting a punch or a feel, then obviously this is for you. Because whenever I flip the pages of my newspapers or I take a tour of my collection, I got a high.
Right.
I mean, it's so wonderful that I can relate it. And every time when I tell stories, I got goosebumps that I am having this kind of stuff.
I forgot my question.
It's okay. So I have war medals also. I also collect war medals.
Okay.
So I've just told you some themes, but I have a very...
Right. So my question was, you mentioned that you've given talks in museums.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, someone came from, I think, ASI, and he showed us a presentation similar to yours, and he showed us coins and stuff. Mm-hmm. So have you gone to schools and other places where you can inspire kids?
See, first of all, I have started displaying my collection or showing it to the world since last year only.
Okay.
Till that time, I was just collecting.
That's when you started the website? Okay.
So I started showing it to the world only last year. And for the first time, I was featured by the Statesman newspaper. And then after I had an exhibition with the NGO, which I talked about. And then I had lectures and all. And I had a lecture in this, even I had a lecture in National Museum. And I was invited by many colleges and schools to show this. But because of some time constraint, I was not able to get through them. So I have these in my schedule that I will be going to the following colleges and schools and institutions to showcase this particular thing. So I also had an opportunity to attend a workshop at American Institute of Indian Studies in Gurgaon. So I was selected there for their archaeology program. And there I showed my collection to the instructors.
This presentation?
Yes.
So how many slides? 100 some slides, right?
Yeah.
So how long does this presentation take?
See, it depends. I mean, if you talk about it going in depth, then it actually takes me 1 hour or something like that.
Okay, you can talk about in depth in 1 hour or 100 something slides?
Yes, I can. I mean, yeah, I will show you the slides. I will not tell you the story.
Right.
So in that way we can. So for them, I think I've wrapped it up in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So in that way.
Okay.
So I had that workshop and it was very interesting and an eye-opener for me. And the
workshop on archaeology.
It was on archaeology and the methods of archaeology.
Right.
That how the things are actually evaluated on the basis of their clay constituents and things like that, and the material they are built up of. So it was an interesting one.
How much time do you spend on this stuff? I mean, you have your own business of consultancy, right? So what is the ratio that you dedicate to this and to your consultancy? It's
not fixed. I mean, whenever I get time, I dive into history.
Right. Okay. So how many hours per week would you say? Or
see, initially for cataloging, it took time. Because when I was just collecting and I was not entering it into my database that what is about and things like that, initially it took a long time. But now my approach is like the moment I get the things in my collection, I just open my Excel sheet and I just enter it on my mobile phone. So in that way, currently I'm able to. And the second thing is these kind of stuff. The one thing is like when I'm getting it into my collection, then it actually, when it comes to my collection, it is entered into my Excel sheet. And these items are very hard to find. So it is not like that every day I'm getting something new and getting updated my sheet. So right now, if you talk about the cataloging, investing time in the cataloging, then it is very less. But if you talk about the history thing, then you can say I devote 2 hours daily into history, because right now what I'm doing is I'm painting. What I'm doing is I am painting the paintings which are there in the museums. So the paintings from the Victoria and Alberta Museum, I am painting this painting on my own, oil painting. So what I will be doing is I'm planning to paint 50 paintings for my museum. So I will be painting.
So they will be replicas, right?
Replicas or reproduction of those paintings with my own hand.
Okay.
So
are you a trained painter?
Sort of. I mean, I love to paint.
Are you good?
That you have to.
Okay.
You have to tell me after.
The replicas, I think there's a town in China. I'm forgetting its name. Do you know about it?
No.
So there's a town in China and they do replicas for museums all over the world.
Okay.
And I saw a very nice documentary. It was very short. It was like 10 or 20 minutes long.
Interesting.
And I'll mention the documentary in the show notes of this episode. I'll add the link. And it was about a guy who's been painting Van Gogh's paintings. He's been doing it for 20 odd years. And he was selling the paintings to a guy in Netherlands itself. And he thought that his clones were going into a museum.
Okay.
And the guy who was buying his paintings, he bought him a ticket and he took him to Amsterdam. And once he got there, he saw that his paintings were actually being sold in a souvenir shop outside the museum.
Okay.
And the look on his face was so heartbreaking, because he thought he was like doing something great. And he had been painting the clones through pictures. So his colors were off, and then he finally got to see the actual stuff. And he was like, oh my God, I've been doing this, something around his cheek. Like, I've been doing this wrong for 20 years. And then he finally got back to his village. So this village is comprised entirely of people who paint the clones of originals.
Okay.
So each and everyone through generations has been doing that.
Oh.
So finally he said, like, I'm not going to do clones anymore. I'm going to paint something of my own. And the first thing that he painted was his own paint shop. People cloning paintings in his own paint shop.
Okay.
And I'll put the link in the description. And you can buy clones from AliExpress, I think.
I want to.
You want to paint them yourself? Okay. But I just mentioned these guys are professionals and they've been doing it for generations.
Okay.
The clones.
That's good.
Like Mona Lisa, Van Gogh, and all the Renaissance paintings.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's nice. But the charm which you will do with your own hand is something which is not comparable with the clone.
Right. I also went on a binge of watching restorations of paintings last month.
Oh.
I was watching painting restoration videos on YouTube for one after the other. It was a very interesting process, because over time the varnish has been ruined, and there have been chinks in the paint while moving the painting from one museum to another.
Oh.
So that was also very interesting. So you're painting the copies yourself?
I have started one painting.
Okay. Which one?
It's the painting from the Alberta Museum, Victoria Alberta Museum. And it is a scene of Qutub Minar.
Okay.
Qutub Minar.
What is the painting called?
I don't know the name of the painting.
Okay.
But it is a scene from the Qutub Minar. And it was drawn in 1850s or something.
Okay.
I will send you the details.
Right.
Okay.
I'll put the link of that also in the description.
Definitely.
So my next question is, what was that one object that was the most difficult to find? Went to great lengths to get your hands.
The Independence Day newspaper.
Okay. That was the most difficult.
That is the most difficult. Or the Moonstone, per se.
So how did you bring it into your collection, the newspaper?
The newspaper came to me from some collector. I mean, this is the thing which any collector will take it to himself. I mean, he won't give it to you.
Right.
So it was like that.
It's like the crown and the jewel, right?
Yes.
Jewel in the crown.
Jewel in the crown, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, see, every newspaper is jewel in the crown. You won't get a second copy, whichever is there.
Okay.
The Bhagat Singh one. And I have more than 75 newspapers, the historic newspapers in my collection. But this one is so special because it's the first day of independence for India.
Right.
So that's how you can say it's a jewel in the crown.
And so what is the story behind it?
Story is like, I came to know that someone has this newspaper in his possession. And the guy was from Jharkhand and Bokaro.
Okay, he's also a professional collector.
No.
Okay.
He's not a collector.
Okay.
Somebody told me that he had a meeting with someone who was actually wanting X price for that item. So I thought, I want this. So I took up a train and I went to Jharkhand. Bokaro.
Okay.
So, and then when I went, I was his phone number only, not the complete details. So I called him and he said, I said, I'm calling from Delhi and you had this newspaper. I said, yes, I had. And he was saying that, I was asking him his address. Give me your address. He said, where are you? I'm in Bokaro only. So I went to him and then he was like, he quoted me 2x price of the item because I was there.
And he knew that you were a collector.
I don't know he knew or not. I haven't told him that I'm a collector.
But if you tell someone that you're a collector, they'll up the price.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if I'm a collector,
right,
and I will say that, okay, I have this kind of collection, then obviously they will even ask for 10x price. So in that way, it is not possible to get each and everything. So now and then I used to leave the things. For example, I was offered Akbar 2 seal.
Akbar 2.
Akbar 2. I am not a professional historian, but
right.
And with
I didn't know there was a
gold
Akbar
pouch,
okay.
with a gold woven pouch, with a seal and 2 letters, handwritten letters from the court of Akbar 2. Okay, and the guy asked some price, and I think this item was in Italy or somewhere. So I said, yeah, leave it. So although I sent this particular thing to the actual historians, and for checking that what is it is written, because the letter was written in Persian or something. So then I left the thing because it was not
right. So going back to Bokaro, what happened?
So Bokaro is, I went there and the guy was asking 2x price of the same item. So then then he said that I don't want to sell. So I said, yaar, kya ho gaya ye? I have actually made the condition worse because I am not a good in bargaining. So then when he said 2x, I said, yaar, what? So I went and I stayed there for a night. Then I approached him next day once again. Then he was reluctant to sell. He said, no, my thing is you won't find this. And this is it usually happens. When you want a thing from the other side and the other person knows that you are in need of this thing, then he will definitely raise his price. So somehow I stayed there for 2 days and then the next day I got this. We sat together for 2-3 times in negotiations and all and other stuff. Then I told him that you are giving it to a good person. I mean, I'm into collection and I will take care of this thing. And we can have some kind of other business in the near future or whatever.
That is also a motivate, right? It's going to a good home.
Yes, that is also motivation. For example, I was offered once the handwritten letters of Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay. And the moment the guy actually came across me and then I showed him this collection and all the stuff, then he talked about the price. I said it is priceless. Then he backed off. He said, why should I give it to you? I will keeping it. Although the guy who was there, who was arranging the Subhash Chandra Bose handwritten letters, he was saying that these letters belong to someone, family friend, and he don't want to give it to the museums and all because they don't take care of these kind of stuff. So probably he wanted to give it to a private collector who will take care of this thing. So I showed him everything that, see, I am a certified conservator and preservator and I take care of this thing like this and all. And this is a priceless thing. And I think it is better that you should arrange this thing to me. So what he did, I don't know what was behind it, but I didn't get these letters. So in that way, sometimes when you show that, okay, you are these, because the awareness is the problem. Most of the people are not aware of the market first. And the moment they get aware, they think that, oh, this is the priceless thing. Yeah, I mean, it can fetch thousands or millions of dollars. But actually, it is not like that. I mean, everything is a value, but it's not like that. Okay, everything has $1 million value or $1 trillion value or kind of this thing, or thousands of dollars. So, but there is a misconception in the mind of the people that if it is a newspaper or if it is some collectible, then it has a tremendous value. And for them, the tremendous is like exponential value. So this is another stuff. So sometimes because of this, you don't get the things, or the price is set so high, the price bar is such at a higher peak that you cannot step into it. So it happens like this.
So did you read about the gold coins that were found in Italy recently? Like they were found like in the open in a vessel.
Yes, I was aware of this thing. I have read it somewhere, but I'm not completely,
So here's the headline: 300 rare gold coins found in Italy under Cressoni Theatre. 300 coins, 1500 year old. Roman gold coins found stuffed inside an urn.
Wow.
They were just lying there. So,
True treasure hunt.
Yeah. So have you found something like lying on the road, something valuable?
I told you I got the fossil.
Right, in the Himalayas.
In the Himalayas, I got the fossil like that.
Right. And have you ever heard stories of other people finding stuff like that?
I have heard a lot of stories. And in fact, this dinosaur egg which I am talking about,
right,
this is also hunted by me. I mean, I haven't bought it.
So where did you find that?
Bought it from Gujarat.
Okay. You mentioned you had kids, right?
I have one kid.
You have one kid. So boy or girl?
Boy.
And how old?
4 years old.
Do you hope that one day he'll continue the legacy of your grandfather?
Probably yes. I mean, it's up to him. I will not force him. So these questions are asked to me by several of my friends and other collectors also. The thing is, I will definitely try to open a museum in this life. I mean, if we will have a museum, then obviously that will be a museum property and he can take care of it and whatever the stuff that will going to happen. But if I will not able to open a museum and this collection will be privately held by me, then probably it's up to him. So if he wants to keep it, then he can keep it. And if he wants to sell it, then he can sell it. So it will be his decision, whatever he wants to have with us.
Great. Check out Anshul's website, historyhunter.in.
Yes.
And you can follow him on Twitter, historyhunter_.
Yes. You can find my collection at historyhunter_ because I just talked about few things and few items which I'm collecting.
Right.
So rest of the things usually I post on Twitter.
Okay.
So
great chatting to you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming over.
My pleasure.
All right, that was it. That was our conversation. And I'm in talks with him to bring him on board with Radio Fly and do his own show with us. So let's see how it goes. Cheers. Until next time.